This cruise was the best cruise I've ever been on. In fact, it's probably one of the best trips I've ever made. By the end of this video, in which I take you through the experience day by day, you'll understand why it should be on your bucket list. A remarkable journey started at this unremarkable building. After a quick look through the fence at our home for the next few days, it's into the modern departure terminal. Boarding is similar to aircraft and very simple. The only thing you'll want to sort is your ship card. After watching a safety video, it's onto the ship.
Enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sail away from Bergen gives a flavour of some of the amazing scenery to come on the cruise. The focus of day 2, Ålesund and the magnificent Geiranger fjord. Rare for this cruise, the weather wasn't going to behave. Early on though, it looked fantastic. Our stop at Ålesund was to be short in the morning, but later in the day we'd have a bit more time to look around. Next up, a cruise of just over 2 hours inland to Geiranger fjord. As you can see, the weather had turned cold and was about to get a little wet, forcing a change to a more waterproof camera. You know, it's not just midday suns that this Englishman will go out in. Soon enough we reach Geiranger and the chance for a few to leave the ship. For those of us that remained, the weather cleared to give us this view. Then it was time to return to Ålesund, but first a slow drift past the Seven Sisters waterfall. So we have an hour to look around Ålesund. Let's go! Of course, an hour in Ålesund isn't enough, but you can get something of a flavour of the town. The Art Nouveau style of the town comes from its rebuild after a fire in the early part of the 20th century. If you'd like to see more of my time in this area, a link to a video is on the screen now. This is the famous viewpoint over the town, from which you'll get photos like this, but you'll struggle to get them done, in my opinion, in an hour in the town. My day was to end cruising out of the area and under one of many dramatic bridges you'll see in Norway. Day 3, Trondheim and its stunning cathedral, followed by a world-famous lighthouse and then a glimpse in Rorvik of the important role these ships play in daily life. 20 minutes walk from our ship, this view up the river. Followed by a short walk through Bergen, which brought me to the town bridge. Then it was on to the famous cathedral. It was one of the highlights of the cruise for me, going inside this amazing building. Then, with the clock ticking on our time ashore, a short walk through town via a royal palace before heading back to the ship. Still operational, but not occupied, this lighthouse is one you'll have seen in many a promotional photo of the area. Passing fellow Hurtigruten and Havila ships is always a mini event during the cruise. This is the approach into the town of Rorvik. The 20-minute stop is typical of many you'll see during the cruise. It's a good reminder of the role these ships play in the life of people living on the coast. Day 4 will see us stop in Bodø to see Saltstraumen before a first sighting of the Lofoten Islands and then ending the day at Trollfjord. Our day started with crossing the Arctic Circle, something which Hurtigruten has a ceremony for. It involves summoning the North gods of the sea and for him to blow his horn. And then for us passengers, like me, to go through an Arctic baptism.
Good job, sir.
Yes, that is right. I thanked him for putting ice down my back.
I feel like I wet my pants. Oh.
We then took a bus through the town and countryside to Saltstraumen. While the countryside was beautiful, I was left underwhelmed by the attraction. You can find out why via a link to a video on the screen now. Next up, our first sighting of the Lofoten Islands. Now for a chance for a brief look around the main town on the Lofoten Islands. we had less than an hour to look around. For me, one of the highlights near the church was a couple of bits of intriguing modern art. Pretty soon though, it was time to get back on board and head for Trollfjord. But before we could do that, a little drink to help us see those trolls. I'm not sure it worked, but the fjord just before midnight was magnificent. Day 5 was to be all about looking around Tromsø before hoping to get the chance to see the midnight sun in all its glory. Just after lunchtime, we arrived in the Arctic capital. A 20-minute bus journey brought us to this ride to an iconic view over Tromsø. Then, it was time to head back down to see one of the icons of the city, the Arctic Cathedral. Before long, we turned our back on Tromsø and continued our journey north. But will we get to see the midnight sun on such a clear day? Initially, we had hope, but then we thought this island would foil us. But of course, the captain and his crew knew what they were doing, and we got this fantastic end to our day. Day 6 was all about visiting the North Cape before continuing along the north coast of Norway towards the Russian border. Having watched a lot of films on YouTube about visiting the North Cape, my biggest fear was seeing nothing. The weather gods though looked like they were on our side. From where our ship docked, it's about an hour's journey to the North Cape. And what a spectacular journey we were treated to. The North Cape Visitors Centre has a shop, trolls.
What do you think of the videos so far? What's that? Rubbish.
Subterranean displays, and just outside some statues. But really, for all of us, it was about this photo and this view out towards the North Pole. The rest of the day, with only a couple of brief stops, was spent cruising along the north coast of Norway in frankly glorious weather. Day 7 was all about taking in Norway's border with Russia before one of the more unusual stop-offs of the cruise. After leaving the Barents Sea behind us, the weather cleared as we approached the town of Kirkenes. First, Andersgrotte, where locals sheltered during bombing by the Soviets in World War II when the area was held by the Germans. Then a memorial for Soviet soldiers who died fighting in this area during its liberation. Finally, it was on to the border, and frankly, it was a very quiet border with virtually no traffic at all. In the blink of an eye, we put Kirkenes behind us to eventually head west, away from the Russian border. Just over 3 hours later, in more gloomy weather, we headed into Vardø. A 1 hour walk around the town took us to this fort and to this eye-catching memorial to those killed in historic witch trials. I then lingered to take in a little bit more of this town and some impressive artwork. I believe, though, I may just have got the hurry on from somebody in the bridge too. Our day was to end with another closer sail by, this time of a Havila ship. Day 8 was to see time in what's claimed to be the northernmost town in the world, and a return visit to Tromsø under the midnight sun. Late in the morning, we cruised into Hammerfest, which claims to be the most northerly town in the world. We were quickly on board a bus to take in the Struve geothermic arc, with nature lurking close by. We then went on to take in this view, not quite as good as Tromsø, and finally it was on to the Museum of Reconstruction. But before long, we were back on board our ship, heading south again towards Tromsø with a spectacular afternoon cruise in glorious weather. With the midnight sun still visible through the fog, we approached Tromsø, with the Arctic capital looking quite something in this pale light. I then had a short walk around the town, looking for signs of Norway's famous son, the Arctic explorer Roald Amundsen. Day 9 was to be a busy one, starting in Norway's Blue Town, then via the Hurtigruten Museum, going on to the amazing Lofoten Islands. The day started though with this spectacular approach into Risøyhamn. It was then another hour to get to Sortland, Norway's Blue Town, which I tried to get round in about 20 minutes. A further hour down the coast stopped Magnus and the Hurtigruten Museum. It was then off to the Lofoten Islands with a daytime pause in Trollfjord. Next, the Lofoten Islands, which looked so much better under blue skies. Our first destination on the coach, Henningsvær, and an idyllic walk to an unlikely famous football pitch. Our day was to end with two stunning views, one on land and the other after we left the islands. Day 10 will see us take the captain's view from the ship, and then I brave wet conditions to try and scale a bridge. First up, we drop below the Arctic Circle with a spoonful of cod liver oil and a glass of bubbly.
The 10 days on board, I've always looked up there and wondered what's it like to be on the bridge of a Hurtigruten. Want to find out? Let's go.
With a small payment to Hurtigruten's charity, a chance to go and look around the bridge of the ship.
I really enjoyed my time in the bridge, and the person from the experienced team was really good and answered lots of questions. The only but to this though was nobody from the crew came and said hello, which I felt was a bare minimum. They could have even answered a few questions. It wasn't too hard. We weren't there for too long, and I thought it was a little bit disappointing.
This was to be the final stop of the cruise, so despite the weather, I was determined to make the most of it and see two of the town's principal attractions, a church and its bridge. Yes, I think it's fair to say my walk was not rewarded with much of a view because of the weather. You may be wondering about my final day on board. Well, in truth, it's quite short. The ship arrives in Trondheim at 6:30 and I need to be off after breakfast before it leaves. All in all, this was a fantastic cruise which I heartily recommend. You can see links to a series of videos about my time on board via a link on the screen now.